House LLC. This franchise has been going on for a hot minute. The first movie came out in 2015 and the latest one just dropped in theaters in 2025. 10 years, 5 movies. 2015, then 2018, quick follow-up in 2019, then a bit of a break till 2023, and then 2025. I'm gonna break down all of them in chronological order, giving my thoughts on the overall movie while I was watching it, the acting, the scares, the dialogue, the story, the highs, the lows, and ranking them all at the end. Of course, the reason and inspiration of this vid is because House LLC Lineage just came out and I recently got a lady. Wanna meet her?
You shall die!
Maybe some other time. So I wanted to show her all of them before we got to go see the 5th installment in theaters. I am of course gonna spoil the shit out of these movies, so let's do this. House LLC. The first movie in this found footage franchise. The movie stars a small 5-person team that run a haunted house in New York, New York, which is pretty surprising right out the door, because these are young guys, and in an expensive ass place like New York, New York, you would think these people would have other more serious jobs, and this is just a seasonal gig. But it seems like this is all these guys have. So the movie starts with them moving locations from New York, New York to Abaddon, New York. Skip to the end and 15 people die.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So here's the thing. These movies are all documentary style, but are not told in real time. Sometimes it works, and sometimes they essentially tell you which asshole lived and which didn't.
Disappointed!
But honestly, the movie does a pretty good job telling the story in pieces. We see a few journalists talking about what they were able to discover before and after the incident. We even get some extra footage from Sarah, the only crew member that survived. She gives the reporters all of the footage that she had, because turns out they recorded everything since day one, which is about a month before the opening. Everything was fine for a while, the ghosts were not being dicks, until much later. The crew freaks out bit by bit, seeing more and more things that scare the shit out of them. The best scare was, I think, Paul's bedroom scare. A ghost appears in his room alone, cause, you know, why the fuck would you sleep in the same room as your friends in a haunted house while everyone's getting scared? Anyways, a very good scare with Paul hiding under the sheets, which reminds me of my favorite dig in horror comedy history.
Get back to the tent!
Oh, sure! The tent's safe! Nothing can ever penetrate the nylon!
So, he gets got by a ghost while in bed. At least it was a chick ghost.
Giggity. What? Nothing, it's stupid.
So the main recorder jumps to another crew member and they are losing it, and we get some terrible dialogue, like deliberately vague. I'll explain because I doubt I can find a clip of it on the internet. So Tony gets pissed off at Alex, the head of the whole company, for not taking the ghost sign seriously and writing off his personal scary moments as him just being stressed out. So Tony threatens to leave. Mac, Alex's number 2, pulls him aside and levels with him, and the cameras are off. The camera turns back on and Tony is in a big field of grass, the wind is blowing. He sighs and he says he had no idea. Alex really kept this all a secret? I can't leave.
What? Oh, come on!
I really wish I could find a clip of someone flipping out over cliches, because holy fuck, that was so deliberately vague and cliche, it makes me want to rage vomit.
Fuck you!
Nothing about that dialogue seemed authentic or organic. That's like what an AI thinks a normal conversation sounds like. Fucking hell. So Paul comes back and he is practically a zombie. And we jump to the first day of the haunt. Everything seems to be going okay until we get to the basement and shit hits the fan fast. Portals open, cultists come out, some of the actors that are part of the show get killed, some bail, guests get killed. It's a big thing. We follow the crew for a bit. I don't remember what happens to Mac and Tony, but Alex gets hung. Paul comes back to kinda reality and beats Sarah to death and then opens up his own throat.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Yeah, so we, the audience, see the problem here. How did Sarah get out of there? But even though the audience saw this part of the tape, the reporters talking to her haven't yet. Not sure how that works, because this is all found footage. Anyways, they have questions for her and try to find her at the local hotel, but the hotel has no record of her. So they go back to the Abaddon and look around and find the room number that she mentioned. They open it and see Sarah facing away. She turns and we see her zombie face and cultists come out of nowhere and kill the reporters, and the movie ends. So, how was it? Overall, not bad, though there are several questions that come up based off of how we saw the events and at what time we see them, because there are several perspectives here. The commentary about the whole event, and then the reporters interviewing Sarah, and the actual events at the Abaddon. But I like the intro of a haunted house gone wrong on opening day. The idea feels fresh to me, especially having some attendees being the victims and not just the crew. The humor is pretty good. The ending of the massacre was a bit cheap and not super creative. Like, I know this is a small budget and everything, but it wasn't a thrill ride. Even though we are told 15 people die, we do not see 15 people die. So it feels like a bit of a cock tease. The acting is like a 7 out of 10. The scares are another 7 out of 10. The best I already mentioned, and the rest were aight, and some of the other ones were just low budget. The dialogue I'm giving an 8 out of 10, even though the shit dialogue in the tall grass really took me out of the movie. The rest is pretty solid because the humor was pretty good. Story, there isn't much to say, so like a 6 out of 10. A haunted house crew moves locations because of money issues. It's deliberately not explained, so I guess you can tell that they were planning on sequels to explain more, which, yeah, a planned series is better than sequels that just happen for the sake of making a cheap buck.
That's pretty low, mister. If I had a rubber hose, I would beat you into
I changed my mind.
But you still gotta give enough for each movie to pretty much stand on its own. And this one does, but if you think too much on the information we are given, or better, the lack thereof, you might like the movie less and less. I do really like the ending of Sarah being dead the whole time. And she's a pretty successful ghost or whatever, because she did lure the reporters back to the Abaddon. Though, I'm not sure how or why it happened. Like, usually ghosts can't leave certain locations. How the fuck did she set up this interview? How did she leave the hotel? Why would the real ghosts in charge let her? What's the point? But as the reporters go through the Abaddon, we do see the pleasant moments of the crew bonding in the early days of setting up the place, and that was a nice touch. It wasn't all a hellscape that was claiming to take your soul. Overall, I'm giving the movie a 7 out of 10. Not bad, though not getting a super high recommendation from me. Like, if the 5th movie didn't come out, I wouldn't have given this movie a rewatch. You want to watch some highly recommended found footage movies? You got Blair Witch 2016, Deadstream, Grave Encounters, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, Late Night with the Devil, The Visit. Those are all solids to me. If you don't like them, go fuck yourself. Just kidding. House LLC 2, The Abaddon Hotel. So the sequel came out in 2018, but the story takes place in 2017. But the tragedy of Hell House happened in 2009.
What is happening?
Yeah, I really don't know. Like, why the fuck did they do all these different dates? It goes back to my previous comment on the first movie. There are like 3 timelines happening. The tragedy, the documentary of the tragedy, and the unique tapes of the movie that none of the other characters have seen or can see except us, the audience, while watching the movie. My head hurts. Anyways, at the end of the first movie, there is a team of 3 interviewing Sarah. 2 of them go to the Abaddon, and the third, Mitchell, hangs back to compile all of the footage from the house and releases that online. And that's how we got the footage of Sarah's death out to the public. But the non-public stuff is Sarah and the cultists taking the other 2 in his group. Mitchell is our main connection from the first movie to the second, and we never saw this guy in the first movie, which is pretty smart from a casting point of view. The tapes in this movie apparently takes place over 2 years. And we get a lot of random tapes of a bunch of poor saps that went into the Abaddon and never came out. Some of the acting, especially from the first guy, is pretty shit.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
The main narrative in this movie kinda starts with a news reporter talking about the Abaddon and then interviews 3 jackoffs. Mitchell, a city council person, and a psychic medium. And the reason I said kinda earlier is because that's the, I guess, framing, but most of the movie takes place after this interview, and Mitchell goes to the Abaddon with a small team of other people. And then we get scenes from the main blonde chick in charge of the team, all beaten up, having survived the Abaddon. So I think that's 4 timelines.
What? Oh, come on!
We got the tapes of the random victims, the news special, Mitchell and team going back to the Abaddon to find some tapes and answers to the origin of the hotel, and maybe some evidence of what happened to his original team and what happened after. Mitchell hates the councilman because he is suing Mitchell to get his movie off the market because it is giving the town a bad name. Plus, he thinks it's a fake. At least, the ghost shit is fake. But Mitchell has got plenty of questions that the guy can't answer. What was the actual malfunction around the Hell House deaths? Why have people gone missing after their last known locations being at the hotel? Where is his former team? The lead had a family, and did she just abandon them? For what? And this is pretty good writing, I'll give it that. But of course, the second medium is being an annoying cunt, which shouldn't be surprising. Our new reporter team called into the show, saying that there is evidence in the fridges in the basement, and this is enough for Mitchell to then be interested in helping them navigate themselves around the place, get the evidence, and get the hell out of Dodge. So we go, and the psychic and his cameraman join in on the fun, and the moment they see a ghost, we get some text on the screen saying that they have been missing ever since.
Whippy!
Yeah, the way these movies are told, it's kind of a shit idea for them to tell us definitively that these people got instead of letting us theorize that maybe they made it out. Because 1/3 of the way into the movie, we know the main reporter, the blonde, made it out. So right from there, we kinda assume everyone else didn't, but maybe they did. Anyways, we get some pretty meh scares, and when we get to the evidence, we see some tapes and the lore of the series expands. We see scenes of Alex freaking out about a bad investment that he made, and it extra sucks for him because he invested the company's money and not his own on this investment. So that answers that question, even though we kinda got that impression from the first movie with all of its shitty tall grass scenes. So Alex is talking to this guy off screen. I guess he is a loan shark or a bookie. I really don't know, we don't get a name. But the guy offers to help Alex by giving him the hotel to recoup some of his money. They shake hands and the rest is history. Shit goes from bad to worse, and Mitchell is trying to be a leader and really take charge, even though this is his first time in the house. He, I guess, is still the expert because he studied the tapes and cut them together, but I'm still pretty sure he would get just as lost as anyone else who has seen his movie. Anyways, Mitchell has some theories that Alex was called to the hotel. Like, there is something more supernatural at play that is luring specific people to the Abaddon. We do get a tease at the end of this movie that the news anchor is going to interview a man named Russell who has been receiving tapes from the Abaddon and plans to move his play into the Abaddon Hotel, which is what the third movie is about, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. At the end of the show, a secretary comes up to the news reporter chick and says the councilman that was supposed to show up had car trouble and couldn't make it.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, wait, who was the guy on the show? We see Mitchell's, he becomes the main lead now, and we see the final parts of his part in this story, and he's in a dining hall, the last man standing. He sees the 2 gals of the team tied up and a few ghosts around the table. He gets approached and we hear a familiar voice. It's the councilman, who is actually Andrew Tully? What?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
How the fuck does that even work? It's the same guy. Andrew Tully didn't wear a skin suit. He just put on a suit and glasses and impersonated a city councilman. How? This is supposed to take place in 2017. It would be public knowledge what that guy looked like. This isn't making a lick of sense how Andrew Tully pulled this off. Anyways, Andrew makes Mitchell choose out of the 3 of them who is going to leave this place alive. There was a 4th guy, but who gives a fuck about him, I guess. But they make things easier on Mitchell and stab one of the chicks. Andrew keeps talking about the lake of fire. They need souls to open the gateway to hell. So I guess we now know the goal or purpose behind the hotel itself. You know, for a ghost, Andrew Tully is able to do a lot that ghosts shouldn't be able to do. The music and the screen cuts to black and we hear our blonde girl get stabbed. It seems Mitchell chose himself to walk out of there. We cut to our girl getting interviewed by the police saying that they should go to Hell House, and we get a pretty good ghost face on her, and the movie ends. So how was it?
Disappointed!
Yeah, this is a step down from the first movie, especially in the scare department. Not like that's a big deal, this is only a horror movie.
That was sarcasm! I was being sarcastic, you fucking idiot!
During the credits, we do see some scenes of the first movie crew talking about setting up shop in the Abaddon, and it's all the same actors, so clearly this was a planned series, and it seems the actors aren't busy with anything else, so no problem with the casting. The acting in this movie is like a 6 out of 10, especially from Andrew Tully at the end. Yikes. He is the big bad, and he sucks. The scares were like a 5 out of 10. There's a subtle couch head turn scare that was probably my favorite. I did like the ghost face at the end of the movie, but it seemed like a still image turned into a ghost face rather than a person with good cosmetics on. The dialogue is getting another 6 out of 10. The story is getting a 6.5 for me because we did find out a bit more about the house itself and the purpose behind it. Because it was technically haunted before the movies came to light, but we still don't know much about anything of its history other than a few people went missing, but no one could prove Andrew Tully did anything wrong, but the business still closed down, and then he hung himself.
Whoop-de-doo, Basil.
The highs are Mitchell theorizing that the hotel calls specific people to it, and the extra information that we get about the crew from the first movie. Not sure who gave the hotel to Alex. Could be Tully doing even more shit that ghosts aren't supposed to be able to do. I don't know. The lows are like just the beginning scares and the missing people being pretty shit. Overall, it's a 6 out of 10. House LLC 3, Lake of Fire. This one came out shortly after the second one. It starts out stating that 9 years have passed since the Hell House deaths, and just 1 year after last year's team went missing. The Abaddon was scheduled to be demolished, but it was bought just in the nick of time by a super rich guy who runs this show called Insomnia, which is a fairly popular production company that puts on theater shows in New York. The performance they are planning to put on is called Faust, a story about God and the devil fighting for the soul of Faust. This troupe is roughly mentioned in the first movie, but not super surprising, a team of haunted house people watching plays about heaven and hell, and the head of the company is brought up in the last movie, Russell Wynn, the man with a very shitty looking scar. The movie takes place in 2018 because why the fuck would it take place the same year that the movie came out? Whatever. So the timelines we got are this documentary taking place after Insomnia's show at the Abaddon and the show itself. Okay, 2. So that's a bit more relaxed. The lead reporter Vanessa took over the position of the blonde news reporter from the second movie. Vanessa wasn't really interested in this story until she heard that she could meet Russell, who is the big dick in town. The crew has already been working on the place for 3 weeks, and we start following our gal 15 days before the first show. Which is a bit inconsistent because in the last movie, ghosts were snatching up people for being inside for like 5 minutes. Maybe they had a team huddle and knew that they had to play the long game this time around in order to get enough bodies. Who knows? So the movie goes on like it normally does. The acting and dialogue seem to kind of dip because the guy playing the devil admits that he isn't very good and that he would never leave Insomnia because they are paying him way more than he could ever get anywhere else. But the big shit kicker is Russell, which is kind of a problem because he is one of the most important characters of the movie. So we get some scares here and there, and our gal Vanessa does some extra digging because Russell seems a little sus. We even get a scene of Russell watching the hidden tapes from the previous movies, the tapes no one has, like the last recorded moments of the journalist cruise. She also finds out that Russell has decided to donate all of his finances to charities, so he's clearly planning something big on opening night. We get to opening night, and the show makes no fucking sense.
Go on.
It's essentially an interactive play. People walk through all of the scenes of the play. The problem with that is that no one is guiding them. They can go at whatever pace they want. Now, how would that work? Well, the only way it could work is if every scene was going on at the same time. So you would need like 8 Fausts, 8 devils, 8 gods. But we don't have that. There's just one of each. So how would someone be able to see the entire performance? I don't fucking know. Seriously, this can't work, but we are just supposed to pretend that it does. So all hell breaks loose, literally. Tully comes out saying that they have enough souls to open the portal to hell. Our main girl and Russell's number 2 die, and Russell comes out of nowhere and tackles Tully, and the Abaddon burns down and kind of swallows itself up. I think. I don't know. So it turns out Russell had a near-death experience several years earlier and was kind of touched by the divine and was on a mission to shut down the evil going on at the Abaddon. We get a scene of the original crew in the kind of afterlife, remembering that they died and are having a hard time accepting it. And then Russell comes out of nowhere saying that we all died at the Abaddon and now it's time for us to move on. And he just walks off and the OG crew goes and have some drinks. Hey, I got a question. Who the fuck is filming this?
Wait a minute!
Yeah, this is still a found footage film. Did some of the cameras go into the afterlife to wrap up the story of the Abaddon? Fucking really, guys? Oh, and Vanessa and Russell's number 2 walk out of the burned down Abaddon remembering their deaths but not sure how they are still alive, and the movie ends. So how was it? Acting? 7 out of 10, maybe lower because Russell really does kind of suck ass. Scares were like a 4 out of 10 this time around. Real damn shame that the previous movie was actually scarier than this one. The dialogue is getting a 6 and the story is getting 6.5 out of 10. The high is probably the first clown scare. One of the crew members does a dare and goes down to the basement, and then we see the iconic clown of the series head turn and slowly follow her as she leaves the basement. The lows were the scar on Russell's face, his acting, and we get the most bullshit of bullshit connections. So at the end of the second movie, during the credits, we see the original crew from the first movie eating at a diner, and it turns out Russell was sitting behind them wearing some bullshit hat trying to be as incognito as the main guy in You, but with a dorky fucking hat. And from the second movie, they had a scene of him entering into the bar as the crew of the second movie was about to go to the Abaddon Hotel. How can you not say, go fuck yourselves with these tacked on scenes? They weren't even necessary. I guess the maker was desperate to have Russell be the connection between all 3 movies, and to his credit, it kind of seems like they were all shot at the same time, like they didn't reshoot the scenes just to have Russell be there. Overall, it's another 6 out of 10. Let's say both the second and third movie are like 5s. The second gets an extra point because it focused a bit more on the scares, even though they weren't great. And the third movie gets a point because it cared more about closing up the story of the Abaddon Hotel. Even though there are gobs of questions you could have that the 3 questions don't have answers to, and that's why the series didn't end with 3. House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The Carmichael Manor is the first movie that doesn't take place at the Abaddon. No surprise there, because the place burned down in the last movie, and you would think that would be the end of the Hell House story. Yeah, you would think that.
You little shit.
So this movie follows a lesbian couple, Margot and Rebecca, and Margot's brother Chase. It's still told in a similar way. It's a documentary taking place after the events at the manor, but this time, no survivors. At least none of the survivors are being interviewed during the documentary bits. Margot is a ghost chaser and is planning on investigating the murders that took place at the manor, and they make a deal to stay there for 5 days. The story behind the manor is that there was a small family that lived there, 2 parents and 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. One day, the boy, Patrick, was driving around the older sister, Catherine, and they got into a bad car accident, killing the girl but only breaking the arm of the boy. As we are getting a tour of the place, the tour guide says that some of the antiques from the Abaddon ended up there, but also some of the antiques at the hotel and the manor came from the same antique store.
Uh-oh, spaghetti-o.
We also learned that our main gal, Margot, almost got kidnapped at this old fair as a kid, and that pretty much shaped her life up until this day. Why am I telling you this?
Just you wait.
We know that there were a few deaths at the manor. The mom and the younger daughter, Margaret, and the dad and son have been missing ever since. Night 1 is the team theorizing about how the murders took place, retracing their steps and how they got away with it. Well, I mean, they haven't been seen, so I don't know if I'd really call it getting away with murders. They just fled, like a normal killer would do. Anywho, day 2 they look around for some spooky stuff, and we actually see some classic Hill House scares. Like the camera's catching some shit, but the characters don't see it. The more Margot digs into the history of the family, the more a particular carnival comes up, and because of her past, it really irks her. The girls decide to go to the antique store for more potential clues, while Chase just plays around with his dick at the manor. It's just an expression, he doesn't really... anyways. The gals find a secret compartment inside an old German clock, and Margot, being the opportunist, says since the store clerks didn't know it was there, they won't know it's missing, and steals everything inside the clock.
You little shit.
Part of what they took there were letters addressed to and from people working at the Abaddon Hotel, and a tape.
Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O.
Chase gets some pretty solid scares while he is on his own at the manor. Night 3, they're looking through the stuff from the clock, and we find photos of the clown mannequins in the manor, but also the iconic one from the hotel.
Dun 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 dun.
Margot goes into theory mode. How is it possible that these clowns from a carnival in a completely different state ended up at the manor and the hotel? They get a few more scares, and on the morning of their 4th day, Chase is gone. His bag is there, his phone is there, all of his shit is there, but no sign of him. That's not necessarily new for Chase. He has a history of seeing things and then running away. So Margot claims that this is just another one of his episodes, but Rebecca thinks it's definitely the manor behind it. I wonder who's right. The documentary cuts to Chase's final recordings and some recordings the Carmichael family did. The grief-stricken brother wants to bring the older sister back, and he has a suitcase full of stuff from that carnival, and the younger sister goes through his stuff.
You little shit.
She finds some sheet music and plays the song. The iconic song we have heard in the first 3 movies. We also get some spooky lyrics, which is a nice touch. It also makes you rethink the song being played in the first movie. You think Paul played it just for shits and gigs, but maybe, just maybe, he was compelled or inspired to play those particular notes. Margot is able to convince Rebecca to stay a little bit longer until Chase comes back, very much playing on Margot's sensitivities, and Rebecca caves, but only so much. The documentary people come in and talk more about Andrew Tully.
Finally.
Man, 3 movies and we barely know the big bad. Glad I wasn't the only one who wanted to talk more about him. So they say that he was a religious man who had a daughter die. And then he goes on the run. And then where does he end up? Oh, nowhere special, just the carnival every asshole is talking about.
Dun 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 dun.
Tully met the 2 brothers who ran the place, and that explains the 2 clowns that we see at the manor. Not sure who the most iconic clown out of the 3 is. Maybe that was Tully's and that has taken on a life of its own. I don't know. People theorize that the cult started there, and that Tully went back to the Abaddon to, do more cult shit. We cut back to our gals who waited an extra 2 hours for Chase, but time is up and they gotta go. Margot has a hard time doing it, but eventually does. They go to their car and it doesn't work. Rebecca freaks out, but Margot suggests that if they walk now, they can make it back into town, so they go. They walk for a bit and we see some random shit here and there, but in the distance, they see one of the cultists from the earlier movies. Uh-oh. So they book it back to the manor. They keep trying to text Chase and decide to hide in their car. We cut to more tapes of the Carmichael family. The son was in jail at the time of the Abaddon deaths, way back in the day, but he doesn't care. He tells his younger sister that he found a way to bring back the older sister. We also see our gals get surrounded in the car and then they head back to the hotel. Margot gets pulled away from Rebecca, who hears Chase calling to her. Rebecca gets killed by the older sister Ghost. Margot finds Chase's eyeless body on the ground, and then we get to see her get taken by a clown and the movie ends. Rebecca gets killed by the older sister Ghost. Margot finds Chase's eyeless body on the ground, and then we see her get taken by a clown, and the movie ends. I think in the credits or just at the end of the movie, we see the older brother in the clown costume telling us that he was forced to do what he did, and the movie officially ends. So how was it? This is honestly the best one out of the other movies by far. What blows my fucking mind is that after watching all of these movies, I wanted to see what makes them so different from the other. But they are all directed by and written by the same guy. I seriously don't know what he's going through while writing these movies because the consistency is all over the place. He seriously put in some work with this installment. We get a kind of origin, or we find out the significance of the clowns, the song, what ties the two locations together, way better scares. It's just nice to see some of this shit tying together. Like, this is the first movie that is really closing the gaps that the other movies left open. There are still plenty left open, but this was very cathartic for someone who wants to see how this story is finally going to end. Oh, and we find out that Margot was almost kidnapped at the same carnival that Tully and the two brothers worked at. Acting, 9 out of 10. Scares were like an 8 out of 10. There were a lot more tension building scares in this one, which I really like. The best one was probably the creepy girl hand around the corner moving nice and slow, and then she comes out of the corner. Dialogue, 8 out of 10. Story, 9 out of 10. The highs were the characters themselves. I liked their relationships. I liked how they spoke to each other in different moments of stress and just throughout the days. I really liked the webcam scare while Rebecca was on a work call. The low is probably the very ending with the older brother, Patrick Carmichael. I honestly thought at first that was Chase, so it was a bit confusing, but then I read up that it's Patrick. Apparently, he was the one who tried to take Margot as a child at the carnival, and maybe he is the iconic clown, but I don't know. I feel like there is a lot more to it than that. Just seems like a tacked on scene that was intentionally vague and also doesn't line up with the other scenes we see of him. I kinda hate how you have to see the previous movies, at least the first one, to really understand a lot of stuff in this movie. I almost wish that this was made in a way so that you could watch it on its own. It's the fourth movie in a franchise, and it's the first movie I would highly recommend and think it's a solid found footage horror. House LLC, Lineage. Ugh, I really don't want to do this one. Should I? I mean, yeah, I'll do this one. So I obviously saw this one in theaters, so my summary and thoughts on it might not be as good as the others. But for some reason, the same writer and director of the other movies decided to make this one a non-found footage film. Fuck knows why. I mean, I'm not against new ideas in a franchise, but making this one non-found footage would kind of be like the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street being a very serious movie instead of the fun, punny Nightmare on Elm Street that we know. Now, I didn't hate that movie, but I understand people's objections, and even if it didn't steal all of the best scares of the original movie and replace the beautiful practical effects with CGI bullshit, but the idea of changing the entire style of the movie, it makes it very easy for someone to just yell, "Whose fucking idea was this?" Anyways, this movie follows the reporter from the third movie. I guess she didn't have much else going on in her career. The movie starts with showing us some scenes of the Carmichaels before shit went south, and we get a scene of a guy getting taken by a clown at the carnival where apparently everything really started. I was laughing a bit in theaters because the guy kinda looked like Liam Hemsworth. You ever see extras or commercials and you get the impression that the guy only got the job because they look like a famous person? Anyways, his death is subtle, a fair amount of tension building, but it was very predictable. We then jump to the main story following Vanessa, and she is having a therapy session and talking about her dreams. She enters into the Carmichael Manor and has convos with the dead family, kinda giving off Insidious vibes, only not as good. We get a few calls back that are especially compared to the fourth movie. I know it might not be fair for me to keep calling back to the last movie, but in my defense, it was the movie right before this one, and so far, it's the best out of all of them. So after the events of the fourth movie, the town has been plagued with deaths. Our girl Vanessa is divorced, she has no chance of recovering her marriage. Not that we really care, because the movie didn't seem to care enough to explain to us what happened with her marriage. We didn't even know the bitch was married in the third movie, so who cares? She also has a roommate that doesn't do much but console her when she is going bonkers and reminds us that drive-in movie theaters are still a thing. Fuck, I miss those. We meet another town local who used to work at a bar called The Cellar that Vanessa owns. His name is Bobby Hopewell. I am telling you this info now because in the movie they kinda take their time telling us who the fuck this guy is. Anyways, he wakes up to a red ball near him and then starts going on his own little found footage adventure, and I thought, alright, a return to form. Only for him to drop his fucking camera the moment he sees something spooky.
Disappointed!
I am truly disappointed, but that's pretty realistic. That might be one of the most unrealistic aspects of found footage horror movies, how often people don't just drop the fucking camera and bolt. But if you're watching one of the more better ones, they do get around this idea by having GoPros and people wandering in the dark and using the lights that they have attached to their cameras to lead their way. Anyways, so he sees the clown at the bottom of his staircase and then he gets got. The next day, Vanessa goes to her therapist and the therapist tells her that Bobby just died. They also bring up that his dad went missing from the carnival that was talked about in the last movie. Interesting. Well, it freaks our girl out and she bails. She's walking around outside and then we get a shitty camera scare. What is that, you might ask, dear viewers? Well, what I mean is that the camera that we, the audience, are looking at scares us, the audience, not the character of the movie. So it's a shit idea that seems so poorly thought out in my opinion. Okay, so she's walking down the street and she sees a clown at someone's door, but she's like very far. There's a long walkway to the door and there's some big bushes. And then she walks away and then, yeah. And then the camera turns again and then we see the clown appear 10 feet forward. Like, why would the clown jump towards the camera when the character is already gone? It reminds me of a camera scare so obvious in the second Friday the 13th movie that it made me laugh. Who the fuck are you jumping at the camera for, lady? So Vanessa goes to her bar and meets up with Alicia. Who is Alicia? Well, she's the documentarian from the fourth movie, alongside the fat gray-haired guy. I am waiting for him to join the fray, because he has been in the same role for 3 of these movies. When is he gonna get a turn to, get killed by a clown? Maybe he's actually the smartest guy in this entire franchise. Anyways, Alicia is the one trying to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together. The accident that took one of the Carmichaels was a car full of people who were driving around from the carnival, and every descendant of those people in the car are the ones getting killed. Okay, so this is where a lot of things come into place. Patrick Carmichael made a deal with the devil, or the cult at the carnival. He wanted revenge for his dead sister, and to bring her back. So, Bobby's Lineage was the most recent one. We are also told that one of the missing people from the first movie was a descendant. Also the reporter at the end who got by Sarah. This ties into Mitchell from the second movie saying that people were drawn to the Abaddon. All these people were on Patrick Carmichael's hit list. So 5 people are on the list, and I think we kinda know most of the people on the list are already dead. But one of the last names does catch our girl's eye. It's the last name of her ex-husband. So she tries to warn him, but it's too late, and we see his unavoidable death. We do get a decent scare in it of the clown mimicking his movements before he just bolts over at him like, "Come over here, you little shit." Vanessa still doesn't know how she ties into all of this because she isn't from any of the places of origin of this spooky shit, at least that she knows of. Alicia asks for Vanessa's help, but she refuses, and Alicia just tells her that she's going to bring a priest to go to the manor to exercise it. Her wanting to do this feels very forced. We really have no connection at the moment for her, so it really doesn't make sense why she cares so much. Vanessa tries to relax at the drive-in, and we get a decent scare there of the projector saying, "Turn around." Later, Vanessa opens up to her friend that 2 of the survivors of insomnia offed themselves, and she feels responsible because she knew Russell was up to something, but feels like she didn't do enough to stop it. We go to Alicia and the priest and we find out that the 2 clowns of the manor are the brothers who ran the carnival. Meanwhile, Vanessa is talking to another one of the bartenders who kinda knew Bobby. The pair in the manor get got like a bunch of schmucks. Seriously, you get this impression that this priest is kind of a badass and he's composed the whole time, telling the scared reporter to just ignore the ghosts. They're just trying to spook you and make you feel helpless, only to lead up to one of them tearing his throat out. Like, he seemed like a very worthy guy. Is anyone capable enough to take on these ghosts? Anyways, Vanessa is talking to her bartender who grew up in the area close to the Abaddon Hotel. He looked inside and it has been haunted ever since. He then says, It's hopeless, the ghosts are gonna get him, and then he pulls out a gun and shoots himself.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So long. I wanna say Clover? Is that a name? So long, Clobber. We hardly knew ye. So after he says goodnight to the world, our girl gets kinda teleported back to the manor, and we're back in the 4th movie. And she is seeing scenes of the main characters there. She does some digging, and some of the ghosts tell her that the lesbian couple aren't gonna make it out of there alive. They also say, quote, "This isn't the house." Wow, thanks for being purposely vague. I'm sure it's referring to the house that she's seeing in her dreams that we have never seen before, and I don't really give a shit. She also sees the owner who lent out the house to the girls in the 4th movie talking to Patrick Carmichael. So that connects us a bit more. Then he says some other shit like, as long as the blood is in the soil, they will live forever. Our girl Vanessa is only one of the 2 that were spawned from Beverly, and Beverly had twins, and so Vanessa sees the person who actually messed up the lesbian's car so that they couldn't escape. She follows him, and it's a deliberately hooded figure, and he turns around and poses to her like he's about to reveal his Mortal Kombat name or some bullshit, and the movie ends.
What? Are you fucking kidding me?
I hate you so fucking much. I don't care that this movie doesn't have the worst ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb gave it the lowest out of all of them, so I'm gonna give my credit to them for being more accurate. Fuck this sequel bait movie. Holy shit. 5 movies. We couldn't wrap up this story in 5 fucking movies? How many more do we need? I'm glad this movie made almost double its budget, because that usually means that it lost money. Though I'm not sure how much they spent on marketing. It's rare that I want a movie to fail, but I want this franchise to fail. I don't want to know how the story ends. This is such a see you till next time, fuck you kind of ending. Ugh. Okay, so I think the guy in the hood is Mitchell from the 2nd movie. We know that Tully spared him at the end of it because he promised that one person gets to leave and continue telling the Abaddon story. Maybe he's also her twin brother and can also do Insidious type dreams. I don't know, and I don't care. Oh, a funny or frustrating thing that my lady pointed out that I forgot to mention is that it seems like there's this running gag in these movies that is in the 3rd movie. Someone describes Sarah from the 1st movie as a dark blonde, even though she's clearly a brunette. And in this movie, they say there's some angry blonde bitch waiting for you, even though she's clearly a redhead. Fucking odd thing to keep going. I don't know if it's intentional, but it feels like someone should call out this bullshit on these hair color descriptions. The acting is pretty good, except from the bartender with the gun. 8 out of 10. Scares were like a 6 out of 10. The head snap backwards scare might have been my favorite. It happened when the priest and the reporter were walking around the manor. Dialogue's a 6 out of 10, and this story is getting a 4 out of 10 from me. Mostly because of that ending and pulling it out of their ass that Vanessa from the 3rd movie is a psychic now for some reason. The highs were maybe the drive-in part and the drop of the camera when the movie almost went back to found footage mode. Lows, there were a lot of lows. I can't believe they couldn't wrap this story up in 5 movies. It's getting a 5 out of 10 for me. Okay, so to rank all of these movies in order from best to worst, 1 is Origins, 2 is House LLC, 3 is Abaddon Hotel because it had better scares than Lake of Fire, 4 is Lake of Fire, and the only positive is that it wraps up the Abaddon so we don't have to see it again. And 5 is Lineage for stringing us along and not adding enough to the story, and I don't think it really closes up any holes. Okay, so we are told the 2 clowns at the manor were the Carnival brothers. I guess that's something. But it adds that Vanessa is a psychic, she has a supposed twin, we didn't need to see a physical person mess up the car from the 4th movie, so that could have just been ghost activity for all we knew. I guess the ghosts are immortal because of blood in the ground or some bullshit. Yeah, we find out the guy who loans out the manor in the last movie is a bad guy. I guess that's something. Okay, I guess the real nice hole that got closed up is why certain people were drawn to the Abaddon. It's because of Patrick's deal with the devil for revenge. Though it doesn't explain why it took so long to start happening, especially since we are told in the 2nd movie by Tully himself that the hotel never closed. They have always been open. So what the fuck were they waiting for? A haunted house event so that they could take a dozen souls in a single day? Really? Overall, this franchise is pretty skippable as a whole. I really like the fourth movie, and the first is aight, and that's it. If you want to watch them to catch up, the first 3 are on Tubi, not surprising. The fourth is on Amazon Prime, and the fifth one is probably gonna drop on Shudder pretty soon. What do y'all think? Is anyone here a big fan of this franchise? Which is your favorite? Because I'd really like to know and hear your defense so I could be a dick about it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully subscribing and liking this vid, and keep it spooky.